These are for my hamstring people, also called my pink panther people, and I'll show you why in a second. So take your 2 tennis balls and like little eggs, you're going to nest them right into the back of your legs, right up against the hamstrings, right up against the sitting bones. Now here's the key, with the release work, we're not going on the bones generally, we're going into soft tissue. So that's a good rule of thumb to keep in mind, okay? The muscle is what pulls the bones out of alignment. So we're going to deal with the connective tissue and the fascia. So from here, hands on the floor, just go ahead and straighten the legs any little bit. They don't need to go all the way straight. And as you're here, hi. Anybody notice some excitement? Yeah. Not you, because you're Donald Duck. So as you're here breathing, what I want you to do, option 1 is just to stay here and breathe. If it's already pretty intense, great, you don't have to do anything. If you want a little bit of extra juice, you're going to start to push and pull your legs. Push one leg forward from the hip, and then the other leg forward. So what I mean when I say Pink Panther, these guys, right? This posture. What I mean when I say Donald Duck, this posture. So my hip flexor people, Donald Duck, right? My hamstring people, Pink Panther. When the hamstrings are tight, they insert to the pelvis, they pull your tail under you. So that makes it really hard to sit upright with your legs out in front. It makes it really hard to do that without being here, right? So what we're doing is we're releasing the fascia, the connective tissue that surrounds the muscle. So if you've been stretching your hamstrings for 10 years and haven't gotten anywhere, you may want to address the fascia. The fascia is like the jacket, the sheath around the muscle. Have you ever worn a jacket that was just too tight before and tried to move around in it and feel how restricted it was and how much energy it takes? That's why we're tired all the time when we have these restrictions in our connective tissue, because we're constantly fighting against this resistance. Whereas if we can just release it, freedom. Yeah. So take the tennis balls out and just sit up again. And those of you who were Pink Panthers in the room, do you find that's instantly easier? Yes. By the way, a lot of us are a little bit of both. Yeah? Little Pink Panther, little Donald Duck, also known as the sassy hip. Yeah. So most of us have a torquing going on in the pelvis. And you're going to discover as we go through this class, did you notice one side was more tender than another? Oh, those are those imbalances I was talking about. So what you're going to start to uncover is how your body holds tension. And now you have some tools as to how to release that. Pretty cool, huh? The release work is just one phase of the operation. It's like, I like to use a car analogy. Have you ever knocked your tire on the curb and knocked one tire out of alignment? So going to a regular yoga class or stretch class with one particular part of your body out of alignment is good. It's good general overall flexibility, but you still walk out with that one particular part out of alignment. It's like going into the tire shop and moving all the tires the exact amount, but you had one out of place to begin with, so that one is still out of place compared to the rest. So the release work, what we're doing is we're actually getting into the body, and we do both sides, but you notice which side needs it more, you focus and you breathe into it, you start to unravel. Then we can actually, it's like loosening the lug nuts on the tire so that we can start to align them all. So the next phase, when we're done with the release work for the upper body, we'll move into some alignment series, and then tighten the lug nuts back in, because it doesn't do any good to straighten things out if you don't give them a way to hold as you drive off. Yeah. So what we're doing is we're using the neuromuscular program in the brain, already hardwired, to actually unwind the connective tissue. So releasing this area is really key for opening up blood flow and just flow, circulation to the brain. The brain is at the highest of the totem pole. If it's not getting circulation, our entire fight or flight nervous system gets triggered. So just by the way you're sitting at your computer, you could be putting yourself into a stress state, anxious, hyper, and then you burn out faster. You overutilize it's like your foot's on the gas pedal, but you're stuck in the mud. You're burning through your fuel. So by releasing this area, you can release headaches, Where was my headache person? Yeah. So this one's for you and the rest of us. It can release headaches, sinus congestion, eye fatigue and strain. And also it can be helpful for opening up the breathing passages to help relieve snoring. By the way, forward head posture and the tension in the upper traps, they trigger cortisol release. Cortisol, anybody heard of that hormone? Right? It's a natural hormone. It's supposed to wake us up in the morning, but when it's in excess, it triggers us to store excess fat around our midsection. Anybody want that? Didn't think so. Yeah. So stress in our nervous system could be preventing us from seeing the result from our workout program. And if our workout program is like to run 20 miles every day, you're actually creating more stress and you won't lose weight. That's why you see a bunch of like aerobics instructors in the gym or people who have been training to run who just aren't changing their body shape at all. That's not true for everyone. Some people have healthy adrenals and can deal with it, but a lot of us don't in today's society. So that's a part of what I help people to do when we look at the big picture, is to figure that all out. We're going to start to work to undo the slump through our thoracic spine. So we released some of the muscles, and we're going to use the ball to help undo this curve, right? So we are supposed to have a bit of a curve in our thoracic spine. The problem is gravity in our lifestyle exaggerates those curves, and they get a little too big. And then they start to get rigid. This curve should actually reverse, yeah? And when it doesn't reverse, a couple things happen. One, we start trying to do it with our neck and our low back, so we feel it in our back instead, or our neck instead. Or two, we actually start to get shoulder pain, because if I'm locked in this kyphosis, I can only raise my arms this high. What should happen is the curve should reverse, and I should be able to raise my arms all the way. Your pelvic floor and your transverse abdominals, those deep abdominal muscles that run like a corset across your belly, work together to stabilize your spine. They work together to decompress L4, L5. They work together to hold your pelvis and hips in place no matter what movement you're doing. They provide the foundation for you to move from. If they're not there, you have problems. Yeah. So if you didn't automatically feel your navel go in when you did the pelvic floor lift, we have some reprogramming to do. And it could be because of surgery or childbirth, or because your abdominals are shut down because of a hidden food intolerance. Who knows? Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it was gluten, dairy, and soy. I was eating them for years. When the woman told me I couldn't, I told her she had to be crazy. I'd been eating them and I'm just fine. Right? And it wasn't until I went through the whole process of getting rid of it that I realized, oh, she was actually right. And every time I was eating them, I would get back pain, and I couldn't. Everyone thought I was crazy. I'm like, no, the bagel, it's right here. I can feel it, and now my back hurts. And they're like, oh, you're crazy. Actually, no, I'm not. And because of them, I do this, right? Because I'm like, I'm not crazy, and I'm going to prove it to you. The muscles and the organs are innervated. They're fused. They're wired to the same fuse. If you stress an organ, it's going to reflect into the muscle. You're going to feel it in the muscle because the organs don't have sensory nerves. They borrow their nerves from the muscles. So you can have something going on in your organs and have no idea, but you have pain in that same area. And the body's really cool design, because if you have pain in the area, you just trace it around, because it's very efficient. You know what spinal nerve it's coming from. We can figure out what organ it is. Boom. We can start to figure out some of the things that are preventing you from getting the results that you want. Look down at your feet. Make sure they're actually straight versus where you thought straight was. Yeah, and make sure that they're in line with your knees. So we're looking for the center of the knee to line up between the second and third toe. My clients, I actually draw little lines with eyeliner on them. Connect the dots, right? So once you're there and you see that your knees, sometimes they do like that, right? Right? Sometimes we see they're out there. So see if you can find that position where your center of your kneecap is aligned over the second and third toe. Now soften your knees a little bit and see if you can feel all four corners of your feet. So the big toe ball, we're not talking about, the toes are down, but we're not talking about them. Big toe ball, baby toe ball, back two edges of the heel, inner and outer. Yeah? And notice if that's easy or hard to do on each foot. It's harder for me on my left foot. Yeah. So I sink down into my knees. Yeah, good. Now, gently think of pressing your knees out and lifting the outside edge of your foot at the same time. You're going to feel a whole lot of muscles engage along the outer thigh. Yeah, so this is great for the knees, for the alignment, for the stability of the hip, the knee, and the ankle, right? To wake up the lateral line. There's some exercises we can do too, but just kind of focusing on this stance. So now just keep the four corners, but just stand. Don't lock the knees, but just stand. Yeah? So standing with a soft knee, but the knees unlocked, still feeling the four corners. We get our stability for everything above from all the way down there.